Well, hello gang, and welcome back to the next installment of my guides to the Long Dark. I've restructured these guides to be concise, yet hopefully detailed enough to get you up and running in the Long Dark, help you avoid common pitfalls, and prepare you to not only survive, but thrive. In this video, we're going to talk about goal setting, which is a core and interlinked component with playstyle tuning. If you've not watched that video, look in the description for a link to the guides playlist. To summarize and reintroduce playstyle tuning, it is the art of managing an acceptable risk window between a lower and upper bound of risk avoidance. This upper and lower bound is dictated by your situation within the Long Dark as it relates to core resources, the most important overall typically being food. To effectively tune your playstyle, regardless of what difficulty you're playing at, you need to assess where you currently are and where you would like to be, or, more often, where you need to be. What do I mean by this? Well, when you first start a new run, you're going to have next to no resources, no tools, pitiful clothes, and no food. You need all of these aforementioned items to keep your needs topped up. Thus, we begin the core gameplay loop of gathering resources. You start naked and afraid, and you need to get to a point where you're not naked, you are fed, and have shelter. It's still okay to be afraid. But what if you don't want to be afraid anymore? What if you don't want to rely on only eating processed food found at man-made locations and dredging up tasty toilet water? Well, now you have a goal. It might be somewhat broad at first. I want weapons to kill the wolves and other animals. I don't want to rely on only toilet water. Well, this is a great starting point. I think this is something that comes naturally, even to a degree for new players who don't really know the ins and outs of the world of the Long Dark well yet. You have a need, and the goal is to fill that need. But in order to thrive in the Long Dark, not just survive, you've got to effectively manage that risk window discussed in the previous video. And to do that, you also need to create concrete and iterative goals. Let's start with no longer being afraid. Okay, you need a weapon. But let's ask ourselves, what weapon? A bow to hunt with and defend with? A revolver to keep the wolves off me as I move? A rifle to take down moose with? A distress pistol as our last resort? If you're like me, the answer is probably all of the above, just in kind of a healthy mix. So now we have a concrete goal. I need a specific weapon. Well, how do I get that weapon? Well, if we're in Stalker or below, I need to go to a place that will have that weapon to loot it. If I have map knowledge, then I can start striking out to regions with those implements and start looting the areas those weapons are likely to show up. If I don't have map knowledge, which is the case for new players, then you have two options. First, I'd recommend just playing the game and getting a feel for the maps. Pensive exploration is one of the best features of the game. I'd encourage you to approach gaining map knowledge this way first. However, there is no right or wrong way to play the game. If you're so inclined, you can look at maps online and use those to help guide you to these resources. Anyway, back to goal setting. Once you do have a specific goal in mind, you can begin to evaluate where you currently stand in relation to that goal. That evaluation will enable you to make key choices to reach that goal. If that goal is getting to the top of Timberwolf Mountain, then you know there's going to be several sub-goals in order to make that main goal happen. You're going to need to travel to Timberwolf Mountain, which means you're going to need food and water to satisfy your needs till you get there. You're going to need to plot a route from where you are to get there, and evaluate which of those routes is best for you. If you have a revolver, perhaps you don't really care about wolf encounters, so taking a shorter but more wolfish route might be acceptable to you. But once you do get to Timberwolf Mountain, you're going to need fuel to stay warm and outlast blizzards in the mountaineer's hut. So, you might want a hatchet to chop up firewood while you're there. As you see, one large goal, like summoning Timberwolf Mountain, involves a lot of smaller goals. Goal setting is important to manage your acceptable risk window as discussed in the previous video. For Interloper players, this is going to revolve around food and getting tools, especially matches. If you have nothing and need everything, your risk window for the first few days as it relates to exploring and weather exposure is going to look very different from a player who's already kitted up. Blitzing through the old island connector without a torch and stones might be too large an acceptable risk for kitted up players, so they will simply get geared up even further with maybe a torch or some flares to make that transit first. An Interloper player, however, might determine that there's more inherent risk to staying put and running out of resources before they can get a bow and arrows made, so they'll accept that risk to get through the connector and run right through it as soon as possible. This is why it is important to understand where you currently are in the game, what needs you have, and then make large overarching goals and then sub-goals to meet those larger goals. So now you might be asking, WAF, I'm new to TLD. How on earth will I get this knowledge? How will I know where to go, what I need, or how to approach a given situation? Well, I've given you a structured outline above, but there's only so much I can coach you on. The best training and learning you can get is to simply get into the game and start playing. I'd recommend starting at a lower difficulty mode to get some map knowledge and learn some of the core game mechanics and gameplay loops. The foundation I've set out above will help you build on that knowledge. There's only so much you can accomplish by trying to pre-learn everything. At some point, you do have to start doing. My goal, see what I did there, with these videos is to help set you up for success and enable you to avoid common pitfalls. Playstyle tuning and goal setting coupled together, and when combined with even a rudimentary understanding of the core gameplay loops, will enable you to learn from your mistakes. You will be able to evaluate your daily situation within the long dart and make informed decisions on how to maintain or even improve your survival situation. So what are you waiting for? Fire up a new run and get started. Most importantly, have fun. And as always, stay safe and stay warm out there.